Let me ask you something. How many versions of yourself did you show up as today? The professional version in the meeting, the agreeable version with your partner, the perfect version on social media, the nice version with your friends, you playing roles, wearing masks, doing what is expected of you. I'm not so sure it's authenticity though. You think that it's just being adaptable, being professional, being kind. No one taught you to question your behavior. So it's a survival strategy. Real authenticity, it's terrifying because it means showing up as yourself even when it makes other people uncomfortable, even when you might be rejected, even when you don't fit in. And most of us have never done that. Not really. We think we're authentic because we're honest, because we speak our minds sometimes, because we're not fake. But if you haven't picked apart your past, if you don't know what's your voice versus someone else's voice, if you're still performing for approval, you're not being authentic. You're just a really good actor. I know this is brutal, but listen, I'm going to show you the difference between performing and being authentic. I'm going to show you why authenticity is the most valuable asset you have in business and in life. And I'm going to give you actionable steps to find your real voice, the one that's been buried under decades of conditioning, and we all do it. In a world where everything is a copy, authenticity is the only thing that can't be replicated. So let's dive into it. So let's start by getting clear on what authenticity actually is, because most people get this completely wrong. Authenticity is not being blunt, being rude, saying whatever you think without a filter, oversharing, being real on social media. That's not authenticity. That's just lack of boundaries. Real authenticity is this: knowing what's your voice and what's somebody else's voice that you've adopted as your own. So let me explain. From the moment you were born, you've been absorbing information from your parents, your teachers, your friends, society, the media, and all of that information's created a blueprint for who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to talk, what you're supposed to believe, how you're supposed to show up, what's acceptable and what's not. And most of us never question it. We just accept it as the truth, as your truth. So when you speak, whose voice is actually speaking? Is it yours or is it your mother's, your teacher's, society's? When you make a decision, whose values are you following? Yours or the ones you were taught? When you show up in the world, who are you really being? Yourself or a version of yourself that you think will be accepted? This is the problem. Most people think they're being authentic when really they're just being a well-rehearsed version of what they think they should be. And here's why this matters so much, especially for women in leadership, women building businesses, women trying to make an impact. In a world where AI can copy everything, where everyone is using the same blueprint, where everything looks the same, authenticity is the only competitive advantage you have. People can feel when something is real. They can feel when someone is performing versus someone is present. And they trust the real one. That's just a fact. They connect with the real one. They buy from the real one. But if you don't know who you really are underneath all the conditioning, you can't be authentic. You can only be a bleak copy. So why aren't you? Why are you performing instead of being? Because you learned early on that being yourself isn't safe. Think about it. When you were a child, what happened when you were too loud, too opinionated, too much? You were told to be quiet, to quiet down, to be polite, not to make waves, try to fit in. You learned that acceptance requires conformity, that love is conditional, that being yourself means being rejected. So you created a version of yourself that would be accepted. A version that's agreeable, professional, nice, appropriate. And that version worked. It kept you safe. It got you approval. It helped you succeed. That version isn't you. It's a performance, a mask, a role you're playing. And the longer you play that role, the more disconnected you become from who you actually are. You start to lose your voice. Your opinions become whatever the room needs them to be. Your values shifts depending on who you're with. You become a chameleon, adapting, performing, surviving, and you think that's strength. You think that's being professional. You think that's just how the world works. And it does. But really, you're just exhausted. Because performing is draining. Wearing a mask is heavy. Being someone you're not takes an enormous amount of energy. You're abandoning yourself every single day. Every time you bite your tongue when you have something to say, you abandon yourself. Every time you change your opinion based on who's in the room, you abandon yourself. And that abandonment is killing your creativity. It's blocking your power. It's keeping you stuck. Because you can't create from a place of performance. You can only create from a place of truth. And if you don't know what is your truth, you just keep copying everyone else's. Because it's not just about feeling disconnected. It's about what you're not creating, not experiencing, not becoming. So 1, you can't innovate. Innovation requires originality. And the originality requires knowing who you are and what you uniquely bring to the table. If you're just copying everybody else's blueprint, using everyone else's strategies, following everyone else's rules, you're not innovating. You're just replicating. And in a world where AI can replicate anything, replication has no value. 2, you cannot connect. Real connection happens when people feel seen by you, when they sense that you're being real, not performing. But if you're wearing a mask, people can't see you. They can only see the performance. And subconsciously, they know something is off. They don't trust it. They don't connect with it. This is why some people can walk into a room and everyone gravitates towards them. It's not charisma, it's authenticity, it's presence, it's the energy of someone who's not performing. 3, you can't lead. Leadership requires people to trust you, and trust requires authenticity. If your words don't match your facial expressions, if your energy doesn't match your message, if something feels off, people won't follow you. They might comply, they might do what you say, but they won't be inspired. They won't be loyal, they won't trust you, because on a subconscious level, they can feel you're not being real. 4, you lose yourself. This is probably the biggest cost. When you perform for so long, you forget who you actually are. You don't know what you really think. You don't know what you really want. You don't know what your really values are. You become so good at being what everyone else needs you to be, you've lost touch with your own voice. And that's a tragedy. Because your unique voice, your unique perspective, your unique blueprint, that's your gift to the world. That's what we need from you. Not another bleak copy, not another performance. We need you. Okay, so now you understand what authenticity really is. I'm sure you already knew. You understand why you're not authentic. You understand how devastating it is. Now to your real voice. How to strip away the conditioning. How to become who you actually are and underneath all the masks. And I'm going to be honest, this is uncomfortable work. This requires you to question everything you think you know about yourself. But it's the most important and valuable work you'll ever do. So let's dive in. Identity, whose voice you're speaking. You can't be authentic if you don't know what's yours and what's somebody else's. So grab a journal and answer these questions. What do I believe about success, about money, about relationship, about what's possibly for me? Write it all down. Don't filter it, just write. Now ask, is this actually my belief or is this what I was taught? For example, I have to work hard to be successful. Is that true for you or is that what your parents taught you? I can't be too confident or people will think I'm arrogant. Is that your belief? Or is that what society taught you? I have to be nice to be liked. Is that true or is that conditioning? Why this works, you're separating your voice from the voices you've internalized. Once you see what's yours, not yours, you can let it go. So today spend 15 minutes on this exercise. Pick one belief, trace it back to, ask, where did this actually come from? Is it actually true? And is it mine? The next one, stop performing for approval. Authenticity requires you to stop caring what people think. And I know that sounds impossible, but it's not. The truth is actually quite simple. Most people are too preoccupied with themselves to be thinking about you. They might judge you for a moment, they might talk about you, but then they move on because they're worried about their own lives. Please remember that. So why are you building your entire life around their potential judgment? Here's your practice. One thing to say this week. Maybe it's your real opinion in a meeting, a boundary you've been avoiding, a truth you've been hiding, and know you've been too scared to know and to give in. Just one thing, and notice what happens. I promise you the world won't end and people won't abandon you. And if they do, they weren't your people anyway. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you can survive being real and identify one thing you've been afraid to say. Say it this week. Notice how you feel afterwards. And this one, stop over-explaining yourself. Authentic people don't need to justify their choices. They just make them and don't think twice. But when you're performing, you over-explain everything because you're seeking permission. You're trying to convince people your choice is valid. So here's the practice. Stop adding explanations to a no, to a decision. I can make it. Full stop. No paragraph about why. That doesn't work for me. Full stop. No justification. I'm going to do it this way. Full stop. Why this works again? When you stop over-explaining, you stop seeking external validation. You start trusting that your choices are valid simply because they're yours. Notice when you're about to over-explain. Stop yourself. Give the simple answer. Sit with the discomfort. Next, find your unique blueprint. Authenticity isn't just about removing what's not yours. It's about discovering what is yours. Ask yourself, what do I believe that no one else around me believes? Maybe it's a different approach to business, a different definition of success, a different way of leading, a different perspective on life. Write it down. Even if it feels weird, even if it goes against everything you were taught, your unique perspective is your competitive advantage. Remember that always. It's what makes you irreplaceable. But you have to claim it. So you write down for 10 minutes on this question. Don't censor yourself. Let your real voice come through and don't edit. Let your energy match your words. Here's something most people don't understand. Authenticity isn't just about what you say. It's about the energy behind it and how you bring it forward. People can feel when your words don't match your energy. When you're saying one thing but feeling another. This is why some people can say something simple and it lands powerfully. And others can say the same thing and it falls flat. It's not the words, it's the presence behind the words. So here's the practice. Where you speak, check in with yourself. Do I actually believe what I'm about to say? Does this feel true in my body? If the answer is no, don't say it. Or adjust it until it feels true. When your energy matches your words, people trust you. They feel you. They connect with you because there's no dissonance. Pay attention to your body before you speak. Notice when something feels off. Adjust until it feels aligned. Be willing to make people uncomfortable. This is the hardest one because we've been taught that making people uncomfortable is bad, that we shouldn't always keep the peace. But here's the truth. Authenticity will make some people uncomfortable. When you stop performing, when you stop people pleasing, when you start being real, some people won't like it. They will say you change. They will say you're difficult. They will say you're too much. Well, let them. Because the people who are uncomfortable with your authenticity are the people who benefited from your performance. And you don't need those people in your life. This works when you're willing to make people uncomfortable and stop abandoning yourself to keep the peace. You start choosing you. Think of one person you're performing for. What would you say or do if you weren't worried about their reaction? Consider doing it. This happens when you stop performing and start being authentic. You stop exhausting yourself trying to be everything to everyone. You just show up as you. You stop worrying about what people think. You know your worth doesn't depend on their approval. You stop copying everyone else. You create from your unique perspective. You attract the right people, the ones who love you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. Your work becomes more powerful because it's coming from truth, not from performance. Your leadership becomes magnetic because people can feel you're real. And here's the most important part. You come home to yourself. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You reclaim your voice, your power, your presence. And that is who you are. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one step from today, just one. Maybe you identify one belief that's not actually yours. Say one thing you've been afraid to say. Stop over-explaining one decision. Write about your unique perspective. Let your energy match your words. Make one person uncomfortable for being real, just one, and see what shifts. Because here is what's going to happen. In a world where everything is a copy, your authenticity is your power. AI can replicate strategies, it can copy content, it can mimic styles, but it can't replicate your unique voice, your unique perspective, your unique energy, your unique presence. That's yours. So stop performing, stop copying, and stop hiding most of all. Show us who you really are. We need it. If this resonated, subscribe to this channel. I'm here to help you find your voice. Because remember, you have all the answers within you. You just need the courage to speak them and to show us who you truly are and give us the permission to do the same. So see you next week.